Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. In case there is any kind of issue about the sound or video, just let me know, or any other kind of issue. You can do that directly from the chat session that is in the GoToWebinar tool. So feel free to exchange with me directly using this tool. That will be helpful during the presentation. Maybe you can also ask your questions directly from the GoToWebinar tool. So there is a specific session for questions, so you can use that. Depending on the question, obviously, I will take the liberty to answer it directly during the presentation, or I will do that during the time dedicated to Q&A at the end of this presentation. All right. So first of all, I would like to make sure you know a little bit more about myself. So my name is Pierre, and I work for Bonita as a technical evangelist. Just to sum up, my job is to ease the adoption of the Bonita platform. So I'm very active in different communities, and I do a lot of technical intelligence. The idea being to identify and develop innovative approaches. So today, as an example, we are working a lot on integration of blockchain. Maybe you know about robot process automation, digital signature, microservices, this kind of things. Before that, I was also working for Bonita, but as a technical consultant. So I've done that for a few years. So I have some experience in Bonita project management. All right, so I'm happy to be your presenter today. This session is titled Adaptative Case Management with Bonita. This has been selected following numerous exchanges from our partners, customers, and even prospects who needed this and who were wondering about the capabilities of the Bonita platform to meet this kind of need. So, I mean, this looks contrary at first, right? You have BPM and ACM, and they are not really incompatible. They actually are really powerful if you combine them and make your development, your application development using the two approaches. You will see that you can do that directly from the Bonita platform. That's what we'll be discussing today. All right, so for this, I will start this webinar with a short presentation, just a few slides to quickly introduce you the important concepts, and then I will go through a full demonstration using an application that has been developed using the SEM on the Bonita platform. So we can do that directly there. Again, as usual, if you have any questions, just use the question section of the tool. All right, I think we can just move forward. So let's start with a quick reminder of what ACM is. ACM stands for Adaptive, or even sometimes Advanced Case Management. Depends on people. They will use Adaptive or Advanced. This is a method that allows you to process cases. So the goals and concepts are for the most part the same as what we use with the BPM approach. Basically, we are talking about actors, tasks, data, events, administration, security, all these things, even performance, KPI, optimization, and so on. The main difference comes from the main principles on which ACM relies. The first one is, and I list them here, the first one is empowerment of the actors. So the actors in charge of the case really have a great autonomy in ACM. And this person or these people will be able to process these cases until their closure. So these actors often have a really particular knowledge about something in order to process these cases, and they will need really specific tooling to be effective. So basically something like a combination of pre-configured tasks, rules, and also some events. The second principle is really what I call the unexpected is expected. So basically a case can be stopped, resumed, and can even change its state at any time without really having past being predetermined. And the third one is context adaptation. So the execution of rules and activities really depend on the type of case and the state. It is also really important in ACM that you can change these rules on the fly or on when it has been deployed already. So you want to do it live. So to sum up, there is no predetermined path, as it is always the case with the BPM approach. With ACM, an actor can, for example, decide to launch certain tasks at any time during the execution of a case, something that is kind of unthinkable with a pure BPM approach. So ACM, if you think a little bit about it, you can think that it's really useful for the use cases that have specific goals and also activities, but that have a complex orchestration. And this could be because of the difficulty or even the impossibility to accurately predetermine all possible paths. So that's a common issue when you try to work on BPM. Sometimes you end up having too many sequences going everywhere, and this is kind of a sign of maybe you should use case management at some point, or have something a bit more flexible. So common use cases include investigations or of a crime, these kind of audits that you will do sometimes, or decision making. So everything that is not that is difficult to predetermine. All right, let's move forward. So on this slide, what I show is really a simple way to better understand the similarity and difference between BPM and ACM. And I use this picture for this. So on the left you have ACM, on the right you have BPM. So on the right, with the BPM, you can see that the process drives the data, defining the path in advance. So key activities determine how the data can be and should be modified. On the other hand, on the left side, you have the ACM, and you can see that the data is driving the process execution, and this is done following global rules. So these rules are continuously evaluated at runtime and also depend on the case context that is itself stored in the data. So that's kind of different, right? We have two distinct approaches that leverage the same kind of main resources. So here, processes, data, actors, user interface, etc. But they use it in a different way in order to achieve the goal. So concretely, there is no approach better than the other. The choice really have to be made according to the specificities of the solution that you want to put in place. So you will likely use BPM because it guarantees standardization of the of your process based on the business rules, and this will be deterministic, and therefore that there will be a strong compliance of the rules put in place. On the other side, you have the ACM that is much more flexible, but this, you cannot guarantee all rules, or at least few of them won't be doable as it is in BPM. So it's really two different things. Just a quick reminder, if we want to use ACM with Bonita, this is something that we can do. I mean, the platform is not case management totally compliant, but you will see that we can basically have something flexible enough to cover most of it. All right, just a quick reminder of what is the Bonita platform history. So originally, the Bonita platform was developed to be a pure BPM platform. And this was the version 5. Then we really moved to the version 6, and the platform really evolved very quickly. And the idea was to make it much more flexible and much more powerful, mainly thanks to extension points. And now we have the Bonita platform that is in version 7, and that allows to build and execute business applications, all based on business processes in a really flexible way. In fact, it is that flexible that it can easily cover most of the specific aspects of the SEM if it's necessary. In that case, I just want to show what an application will be using. So most of these elements are in this list. You can see the data. So the BPM documents and comments will be used to define the structured but also the unstructured data, and this in all of this in a centric way. Regarding the business rules, this will be done with the business processes that will be used to define business rules, and that will be useful for editing the data. So this business rules will be defined using BPMN version 2.0, and that will be used to build this process or these rules in a structured or unstructured way. Regarding the actors, we have actors, filters, and profiles already, and they are already dynamic, so we'll just be using them as it is. There is no big deal here. And then we have the user interface. So we have a generic living application that can be used for the application side. Everything is based on the dashboard. This dashboard will give access to tasks according to the context of the cases and their rules. In the same way, Bonita provides a generic application based on the BPM approach. You will see that it's possible to create a generic application that is based on the ACM approach, which is not exactly the same expectation in terms of UI. And I will discuss one extra bullet here that I did not put on the slide. It's the fact that we can edit all these rules on the fly. So Bonita allows by default to update most of the elements that have been defined. So this includes the actor mappings, the expressions, user interface, data, parameters, for example. And this even if all of this had been deployed already. So this is really important because this is part of the flexibility of ACM that you're looking for. So all of this allows to bring together the best of both approaches, BPM and ACM. And all of this by using the Bonita platform in a simple and totally native way. This makes sure it is possible to answer to any case encountered during the development of application. All right, so for you to better understand, I'll continue with the demonstration of an application that we have developed. And the idea was to illustrate all of this. It is really the opportunity for you to better realize how it works and what we can get as an end user or as a developer in terms of perspectives. All right, so the theme of this demonstration is online shopping fraud. We have chosen this use case because it's really a perfect example of the type of case where the ACM is effective. So you have a semi-structured case management that is kind of difficult, even sometimes impossible to automate. And the reason is because it's difficult and sometimes even impossible to predict. So this requires strong flexibility of execution. So that's why we usually use ACM for this. All right, so regarding the use case, as you can see from the slide, we have a suspicious online transaction. So the idea is that we have a customer that sees a fraudulent activity on his or her account, and this person will ask for reimbursement to the bank. So on the other side, we have the bank that will be processing the request, and this request processing will be using an unstructured process. So this process has three main steps. So the first one is to make sure that we can analyze the request. The second one is to make sure we can confirm or not the fraud, and at the same time keep the customer posted on the advancements. And the third one is to make sure that we can reimburse or not, depending on the situation. So in this illustration, we have multiple actors. So I just discussed customer and I said bank, but basically that will be mainly an advisor that will be discussing with the customer. But we also have multiple actors like the manager or the overall team at the bank. So all of this, again, is something that we have simplified. It's not it's based on the real use case, but for the sake of this this presentation, this webinar, we simplify greatly how it works. So we'll basically be working with the advisor point of view during this demonstration. All right. Now I will show you the application and explain the development in more detail. For this, I will start with showing the application itself. So give me one sec, and we'll launch the application. So I will do that directly from the studio. Okay, so open in the browser. So we have Walter Bates here, and Walter Bates is an advisor at the bank. And Walter Bates will have a customer on the phone, and this customer will be complaining about a transaction that is fraudulent. So based on the information from the customer, Walter Bates will start creating some case about it. So here, the customer says that his account or her account is ending in 1234. So that's what we are doing here. The advisor will be basically looking for, things, transactions that is on the record. So here we see that we have one here. So we'll just start a new case about it. Select it. And then we can provide the ID of the whatever insurance we have. So here we'll say insurance gold. I have no idea, something like that. And then we'll start a new case. So again, the advisor has the customer on the phone, and the customer is complaining about this transaction. So the advisor found this transaction and start a new case about it. So here we'll start a new case. So you can see it's refreshed, and now we have this case created. So what we have so far is the advisor creating a new case specific for this fraudulent transaction, and then we have it in the list in the dashboard of the advisor at the bank. So here we see that we created just this one, and so we have some information about it, and you can see that the current state is started. We can see also on the right that we have 4 different activities that are currently pending for this specific case. So what we'll be doing here is to click on this button, and this will redirect to the information about the case. All right, so a few things about this case. There are a few sections here. So the one on top is about the information of this case. So you remember this account. We have the phone number and also the name of the person. So this is really mostly the contact information about the case, and then we also have on the bottom you have the history of what happened on this case. Here nothing, because we didn't do nothing yet. We also have no comments and no documents, but we'll see that it's possible to have them as soon as the process starts. What we have left is this area, which is the main one. It's called case activities. It's because it basically lists all the different things that you can do regarding this case, and this is based on the context, the current context. But you can see also that you can close at any time the case. So if you don't want to do that, but this is something that is doable. And on the right, you see that you can also create an activity. This is what we call a punctual activity in our case. The idea being that sometimes you have things that are unexpected and that you could not really define in advance. So you need to make sure that you can create an activity specific to this case, and this can be done directly from here. So that's pretty much about this page here. Maybe we can start with a few actions about that case. So as an advisor, what I will do is to make sure that I call my customer because maybe I'm missing some information. I'm just saying that. So what I do is I click directly on this link, which is linking me to a specific form that is associated to a specific task of my process. So here I will call the customer. On this form, it's basically providing all the information about this case. You see that I have a specific insurance and phone number and so on. So I can call the customer based on this information. And as an advisor, I will basically provide all the comments of what happened. So here, maybe I would say that the customer didn't answer. So we'll just save that. And you can see that basically the task has been submitted as part of the regular flow. So here what happened is we have information gathered based on this action. So you can see the case history on the bottom. We called the customer. Voltabase did that a few seconds ago, and you have the case ID and so on. So it's just to show you that this is what we call the process shadow. It's basically all the timeline of what happened on the process. And this really helps to understand the history of it. Then we have the comments here because we added a specific comment when we validated the task. This comment has been provided here. So you can see that we show that there was no answer. There could be more interesting here. And documents, we don't have documents yet. So that's pretty much what we've done so far. Maybe we can add the comments directly here. So again, we can just click on it and we can add a comment. So here the comment could be the identity T-card is expired. There could be maybe some relevant information in this case. So we do the same. We just save, see how it goes, and you see that the timeline is updated. The comments are updated, and you can see that we still have access to these two tasks, these two activities at the customer and at comments. So if we want to add another comment or another, or call again the customer, we could do that. And the last one I want to show right now is this add documents. So I will just add a document, and you can see here that the idea is to provide the document to upload it. So here we are talking about a transaction. So what I have as an example is a receipt, and we can just submit this receipt in the case, and you can see that now again the history has been updated, but we also have a document associated to it. So if I click here, you can see that you can download and see this this particular receipt. Give me one sec. We'll show you that here. Show up in a different screen. All right, so you can see that we can add documents here as usual. And then what we want to do maybe is to add a specific action. As I told you, sometimes things go as it's not expected, and then you need to create a specific activity for this case. So here we can say maybe we need to call the shop where the transaction has been done, because we need to check it out with the owner. So here what we can do is to create the activity called the shop and create it. And what you see here is that this activity is now available in the list. So you can see this icon and the name is the name that I just provided. You see that this one is provided as optional, so it's not mandatory to do it. But if you click on it, as an operator, you will be able to add information on it. So maybe the call the shop will say that it is real fraud or something like that. And then what we can do now is just to investigate the transaction. So what we call investigate here is mainly to provide information about the investigation. And because of all these activities that we've done in the past, maybe we can just say, all right, this transaction has been investigated, and this is a valid fraud. And then this task in particular allows us to get access to others, because maybe you didn't see, but the refund customer was not available and the spread solution was not available. The same way resolve is not available now. we needed to have some kind of a specific context in order to proceed with this kind of task. For the refund customer, we needed this investigation to be processed to make sure that we can refund the customer in the right way. And for the spread solution, we needed to have an investigation done to make sure that we can spread the word, the IDB to share in the knowledge base with managers and so on, to make sure that we share the specific case. So that's something that you could do now. What we'll be focusing is mostly on the refund customer, and you can see that it is required in order to close this case. So let's refund the customer. Now we have investigated and that we know that it's a valid fraud. What we want to do is to refund the customer. In this case, we can say that it's a partial only due to the insurance policy. You remember this gold insurance? Could be depending on the terms, maybe you will have a partial refund. So that's what we are saying here. And now you see that something that was not available before, the resolve case, is now available. So basically it means that because we don't have nothing required anymore, it means that we can resolve the case. This is very specific to ACM. It's not because you have nothing required anymore that you should close the case. Sometimes you want to do some extra work, like calling the customer to provide more information or keep the customer posted. So these kind of things could be done even though there is no required activities anymore. So that's basically how ACM-based or unstructured process will be did. All right, so that's pretty much the end of the quick demonstration of the application I wanted to do. What I suggest now is to check out the details of the developments that have been done in order to have this kind of application. So we'll just close that now and come back to the studio. Just before going to the studio, I just want to highlight that there are two main elements that have been created for this application. And they all rely, by the way, on functionalities accessible by default on the Bonita platform. So we developed really what we call an unstructured process that is really something that is following the principle of ACM. And we also built a generic living application that you kind of seen during this demonstration. So the first thing that we'll be discussing is maybe this unstructured process. So as a reminder, here it's a studio, Bonita Studio, and this is the application that will be used to define all the elements that are used by Bonita applications, mainly business processes, data, and user interfaces. So here I will open the business process. So this is the application descriptor, but I will be showing up the process that is used for this fraud management. All right, so this is the diagram, and this is the process that we will be that we use during this demonstration in this application. So what we can highlight here is three big differences compared to a usual BPM process. So the first one would be to spot that we have no start or end events. The second one would be to see that some tasks are kind of structured. So you can see this one, for example. You can see that we have transitions between them. We even have some decisions sometime, and you could have like connectors or events, these kind of things. But some of them, they are totally unstructured. By unstructured, I mean that they are alone and there is no transition coming in or coming out. So they are kind of unstructured. And many of these tasks will be looping forever until a condition is met. So here I will show you that. So if I go to general, iteration, I will show you the specific loop condition. So here I open the expression that is used for it. So this expression here again is the loop condition. So it will loop until this happens. So here what we do is to make sure that resolve activity on the case has not happened yet. So we'll this I can translate it. This is kind of technical, but basically what we are saying here is we want to be able to call the customer until the case is resolved. And this will be any time until the case is resolved, and we can do that as many times as we want. And this is kind of the same thing for the add document and add comment. I don't know if you recall, but we could add document and add comment anytime and add as many times as we wanted. For the spread solution, though, it's not a looping one because we want to do it only once, but we want to do it in a specific time, at a specific time based on a specific condition. So that's also why we'll be using some condition for it. So these are differences, but again, we have kind of the same principles that we made. The same as the BPM approach. So the first thing that I want to highlight is that we segregate the business data from the engine data. So usually we do that with BDM or external database, and actually we are using BDM here. So if I show you the definition of it, you can see that we have information about our business directly in the BDM. So we are using that, and in our process, you can see that we have business variables. We are also using documents. This was really to simplify, but we could use a content management system instead. That would be more something that people would do in the production environment. All right, so there is no real strong link between the business data and the business processes. And this is to make sure that we have process iterations. So this is really something that we do for the BPM, but that we also apply here, even though it's an unstructured process. We can also use connectors. Here is not the case. We could think, for example, of a notification by email to the customer when something is resolved, or when maybe the customer should get the refund. This kind of things could be done. I don't have any example here because we didn't do that, but you could use connectors obviously to interact directly with external systems. Then we can also discuss maybe a bit more about the actors and filters that have been used here in order to dynamically manage the assignments. So here what we do is pretty simple and it's really basic. We use actors. So here, if I go to actors, you will see that we have two of them. And each task will be able to leverage this actor or these actors, or even have a specific filter about it. So that's really basic to BPM. There is nothing really specific to ACM here. And in terms of forms, you can see that we have, most of them, actually all of them are human tasks. In this example, and for each of them we define a specific form. So you remember maybe the comments form where we could add a comment. Maybe you recognize this form. So this form is coming from a UI designer in a regular way. There is nothing new here. Okay, regarding the business data, I just want to make sure you understand that we use the BDM and document variables today, but we could also have external systems as usual, such as databases or CMS. The only particularity about this business data is that for some tasks, you can have a local variable named activity states. So that's what maybe I want to show on this one. That would be interesting. So if I go to data here, you can see that one of the variables will be local and it will be called activity state. The idea of this local variable is to manage the life cycle of the task during the execution of the case. And this state can take several values depending on the current context of the case. And this is evaluated continuously and also dynamically. So if I sum up the type of states that we have here, we'll be able to see a task mandatory, so that must be executed at a specific time, depending on the conditions. That could be also discretionary, so that will be executed at specific moments, but only when specific conditions are true. We also have a task that could be complete, so that obviously it is obviously a task that has been executed. And then we also have the not assigned, so that task cannot be executed in a specific context. And the last state we have here in this demonstration is the optional state. So this task won't be mandatory, but can be executed as many times as desired. So all these states and the values, they are continuously managed and evaluated at runtime, and this is done by an event handler. This event handler has been created to change default processing. That is done by the engine, the Bonita engine, and this enables this type of unstructured processes to run. So for the people who don't know, an event handler is a basic extension point of Bonita engine. This is configurable directly from the platform's configuration files, and this will be really easy to make it fit your own rules if you want, because it's based on the Java implementation. So I can show you quickly here how it looks like. I just put the code in the REST API extension. It's not supposed to be here, but it's just to show you the code here quickly. This is based on Groovy here, but Groovy is pretty much Java. So here what we are doing is we execute this method each time there is an occurrence of an event that we register, and this is basically continuously executed each time there is an event, like a task is complete or this kind of things. Then this will be evaluated, and this will change, or this will execute again all these conditions, all these expressions that we have in order to know which state will be used for a specific task. So this event handler will make sure that at specific events of this specific case, these conditions, this activity state value, so I can show you the expression of it, will be evaluated again. So that's what I call continuously evaluated and dynamically evaluated. It's because we have access to a lot of context about the case, so it may depend on variables, and continuously, because each time something happened on the case, then this will be evaluated again, and then the value may change. So you see here, for example, for the specific task, we might have a state that is not assigned, or this task might become optional depending on the situation. So that's exactly what happened for this task, and this task is the spread solution. You remember the spread solution was available only until the investigate task was performed. So that's what the event handler will be doing. It will catch up with the progress of the specific case and reevaluate all these variables when necessary to make sure that they are available or not, depending on the context. All right, so I think this is all we could say about the unstructured process. So let's move to the living application part now. And I will show up I think the best is to show the descriptor. So I will just show the descriptor of the living application that we were using. All right, so this living application integrates the forms defined in the business processes, obviously, as usual, but it also have some additional generic resources that have been created for it. So this has been done to be a really generic application again, so and specific to the ACM approach, obviously. So we just try to do the exact same as what we have for the BPM approach, but for the ACM approach. And this will be ACM-centric living application, if you want. So for that, we obviously use the forms, but we also have some pages that are specific to it. So what we do here, if I open the UI Designer, I will be able to show you a few things. We have the page with the details of the case. So here, this page has been created with the UI Designer, and if I open it, maybe you recognize the layout. So we have, the list of activities, the information on the top, create a punctual activity, and also have all this information about history, comments, and documents. So all of this obviously has been created for this specific demonstration, but it could be you could have it evolved based on the situation and the rules that you may have in your ACM approach. And the second main page that we have is the case list. So this case list is just to make sure that we have a dashboard in order to have a listing of cases that are available at a specific time. And you may recognize the one that the advisor has access to. So that's exactly the one I'm talking about. All right. Just to sum up with this, we have the custom widgets. Maybe you remember this timeline that we are using to show these actions that have been performed on a specific time by a specific person. And this is something that we use directly from a custom widget. So we just provide information and it will show the history. All right, so this completes what I wanted to show you. To finish on this, I think it's really important to highlight again that everything I've shown so far is something that is native extension points of Bonita platform. So there is this is a pretty basic illustration only of what is really possible. All of this can be obviously edited and optimized, and this according to other requirements that you may have using ACM approach or unstructured processes, as we are doing here in the example. All right, so yeah, I guess we're good. I introduced you to the ACM concepts, explained to you how you can benefit from this approach using the Bonita platform, and I just complete the demonstration of an application that has been developed according to this principle. So this is the end of this webinar presentation. So I think the best now is to open to questions. If you have any, please ask directly by using the question section accessible from the GoToWebinar tool that you are using to connect. If you have no questions, you can also use this time to give feedback on the formats, but also on the topics that you may want to see addressed in the future. So feel free to provide your feedback. All right, I see Miguel question. Will you share the application? This is something that we don't share right now. There are discussions around how all of this could be distributed or not. It depends, on the community, but also on the enterprise edition. So there are discussions around that. So for now, we don't share. Let's see if there are other questions. All right. Okay, apparently no more questions. So I'm going to stop the webinar for today. If you have any question after this webinar, I invite you to go to the community website. You will get answers from members, and I'm also active on this community, so we might discuss directly from there. If you want to contact me directly, I'm available on Twitter and other social networks, so feel free to contact me from there. In case you missed anything, or if you want to check again this webinar later, please note that this has been recorded and it will be soon available on our bonitasoft.com website. All right, so it is time for me to thank you all for your participation, and I guess I will talk to you soon about another subject. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.